Good morning and welcome to the Founders Corner. We are here today with Allegra Bandy. See, the easiest word I could, mess up, right? Of ODDUA Publishing, and you can correct me on any of those pronunciations if you would like. But welcome and sorry about the killing of your names.
That's okay. Thanks so much, Mike, for having me on here. This is super exciting, and it's been a while.
So we will get into what you do and why this has been a while, but for the folks out there, this is not usually the side of the camera that Allegra is on. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I produce and publish audiobooks with my company ODDUA Publishing, and we specialize in producing non-fiction author-narrated titles, audiobooks. We handle all of the vocal narration coaching and direction, all the recording, editing, and publishing.
And why is this a particularly good vehicle for digital marketing?
Well, in comparison to print books and print products that come out, right? Audiobooks, the audiobook industry has been growing at an exponential rate for the last, I would say, 12 to 13 years. Now that everyone has a mobile device, that they can either download or stream content, we have seen that audiobooks have taken like a more predominant role in book consumption. So, it's important that when folks are, getting their brand out there to write a book and get their stuff out there. But now it's like you can't just publish a print copy. You also have to have an audiobook if you're really going to be able to get your stuff out there. So in the digital realm, right now we have digital audiobooks and digital downloads and digital streaming. So to be a part of that market, or to take advantage of that market, is really kind of an essential step in developing your brand.
And what platforms are usually available for these books?
Oh, well, the main platforms that have been kind of taken over and had monopolized the market for a long time originally was like Audible, which is an Amazon subsidiary, and Apple, which, the Apple Podcasts, and now Apple Books, and you can now get Apple Audiobooks. Those were the two main ones, but now there's like over 40 different digital online platforms that you can stream or download audiobook content from. So Scribd, Chirp, Hoopla. I mean, there's so many.
We love Scribd. I found Scribd about 2 years ago and can't imagine how I live without it. And with this many platforms, is that part of the service that you provide in advising clients? What's the best platform based on content or what?
So we distribute on over 40 different platforms.
So you put them all out there on everything?
On mostly everything.
Okay.
To cast a wide net, catch more fish.
Okay. And is this typically launched in conjunction with a bigger marketing effort, or is this usually a standalone effort?
So we're my company handles more of the production and publication, and we really leave it to the author or the rights holders to do their fair share of their own marketing. So we do some of ours in promotion of our content and our company, but we really do, leave it to the authors to get their own word out. So, it's in benefit to everyone involved that they do that.
And what do you recommend? So what makes a good audiobook? What are the sort of the components that make a good audiobook?
Well, number one, really good writing, right?
Really?
You
You're gonna start
want
with
you want
content?
good content. That's the number one thing. If it's really crappy writing, then no one's gonna really want to listen to it to begin with.
Right.
One of the second element, of course, is the narration itself. So the person who's narrating it, whether it is the author or if it's a professional voiceover actor, that their own performance is what grabs the listener, and engages the listener for the long run of the audiobook. The third thing is how it's all put together, how it's edited, if and how it's recorded, the production of it. So if you have a low production value, meaning like if someone decided to just take a regular old digital recorder and hide in their closet with a lamp and read from a page, and turning the pages, and you can hear this kind of rustling.
So you've seen my productions then?
Oh, oh no.
Thank you.
Versus like a higher production value, someone getting in a professional studio and having a good microphone to narrate on, and having a vocal coach or an acting coach to work with them before they narrate, and then also during the recording sessions. So those are things that we provide, that we make sure are happening for every one of our productions. So yeah,
And do you prefer the author narrating the books, or do you prefer professional, or does it kind of depend?
well, I believe that's our niche, in the sense that ODDUA Publishing is one of the folks, or one of the companies that specializes in author narrated titles. So we believe that the essence of the work, especially for nonfiction titles, personal development, personal narratives, historical historical journalism, sexuality, all these, all the different realms within nonfiction, that the nuances of the writing, the humanity in the writing, get brought forth a lot more when the author is narrating. So you hear, their sense of humor, you hear their pain, you hear all these different things that you wouldn't necessarily get if you had just an actor narrating someone's life story or autobiography, or those types of titles. So yeah, it's definitely something that we are committed to making sure we get out works that are in the author's voice. Plus, it's also its own niche market. So there are a lot of fans out there, there are a lot of folks out there who really want to hear the author's voice and will actively search for that. So that's where we come in. So
Have you read a book and then had the author read it and come up with a different experience?
what do you mean by that?
Meaning that when you read it, you had your interpretation, but when they presented it, it came out differently, or they emphasized something that maybe So
Oh, of course.
okay, that's
Of
my
course.
question.
I have my own wild imagination, and I am one of those people who actually do like to turn a page and consume a book that way. But yeah, it's always going to be different. What you read and what you process in your own brain as you're consuming a book, it's going to be different as you listen to a book, right? Your brain works a bit differently that way. Plus, a lot of people nowadays, because audiobooks are so accessible and folks are able to consume it in different ways, whether it's like blasting it through speakers or, in their cars or in their headphones, doing other things. I'm a knitter, so I love like consuming audio content while I'm doing other things. So, your brain will process it differently in that way as well. So whether it's active listening or passive listening, we're a lot of people now are passively listening because they want something kind of in the background, too. And then, when you're stuck in traffic, we've seen that a lot of folks who are
Not in the
commuting,
last year, but okay, before then.
not in the last year, right? But for the last,
But we've been stuck in our house, so there's still been plenty of time, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the audiobook industry did not slow down last year
Sure.
in 2020. Yeah, if anything, it boomed.
And how does an author go about trying to decide whether or not, whether their book is, a good candidate for an audiobook?
Well, if there aren't a whole lot of charts, a whole lot of graphics and image, if it's not image heavy, if it's a book that has good stories, that has good lessons, those are the best candidates, I believe, for audiobooks, at least on the nonfiction side. For fiction, right, if someone's writing a fictional story, then you're probably going to have several different voices. So more than likely you will want to hire a really good voiceover actor, or actors plural, to cover all of those different voices and characters.
Yeah, I keep thinking of Samuel L. Jackson when he read the "Go the F to Sleep" book. Have you heard that? I want him to narrate my book. I don't care what the topic is. I just want him to narrate my book.
I've heard of it. I haven't listened to it. I've heard snippets of it.
It's
which
worth
is
it. It really is. It's
hilarious.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it. Is there a particular length that works better? I mean, obviously, I'm thinking of Stephen King's The Stand, and I realize you don't do nonfiction, but something that's 1,600 pages is quite the endeavor for an audiobook, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
And
if it's a good book, you want to put it out there.
And I know, like in the nonfiction side, most of the audiobooks are condensed. They're not a full reading. Is that the same?
On the fiction side, you say?
Yeah. Well, it's just like, they will, present the book in 30 minutes or something like that. So they'll offer sort of the, the clip
Well, that's
notes
its
version.
own, I believe that's its own thing, like
Okay.
abridged versions,
Okay.
right, of a book, and not necessarily the entire work.
Okay.
Right. Those are their own type of things too.
And what advice do you have to people when they are considering doing this?
Write a good book.
Write a good book. Wow, you keep going back to content.
Don't, have a good editor. Have somebody edit your stuff, and really look at your writing and making sure that, you're not I don't want to cuss, but you're not halfway doing anything.
Yeah. That's like the F, go to the F to sleep, right? Yeah, I tried to clean that up too. And have you offered that feedback to anybody where you're like, oh, just go rewrite your book and I'll see me in 6 months?
No, luckily I've had really amazing writers that I've had an opportunity to work with. I just had lunch with one yesterday and told her, how lucky I was to have been able to work with her. Her name is Dossie Easton. She co-wrote with Janet W. Hardy, The Ethical Slut, I don't know if you're familiar with that book.
I'm
It's
not.
a personal development and sexuality title. And it's been translated into, I don't know, 10 different languages now, originally published in 1997. And just a brilliant book. And it's considered like one of those relationship Bibles, that folks, if you're in a relationship or want to be in one, that is like one of the books to read. And so I had lunch with her yesterday and just was reminded how freaking lucky, like, to have recorded that. And because it's so well written, right? It is, you consume it in like 2 seconds because you can't stop reading it. And it's still relevant. It's one of those titles that like still holds true no matter how many years have gone by,
Yeah,
since it
that
was
evergreen
published.
content, right?
And evergreen, yeah, exactly. Evergreen content. But just well written, well put together. Her and Janet did an amazing job writing it. And then they did an amazing job recording it, when I recorded them.
So both of them participated in the recording of it. Okay.
Mhm.
And was that more of a dialogue, or they were still reading the book but playing off one another?
Oh no, I recorded them at separate times. We
Okay.
split up the book. Yeah, when you have multiple people or more than one narrator, I get them in the studio one at a time. It's not something that I would want to have them deal with, like, conversational style. It's just not worth it. You just get the process just happens a lot faster when you're able to do one at a time. So
And then once again, where can people learn more about what you're doing and the type of projects that you work on?
they can go to ODDUA That's ODDUA PUBLISHING.com.
You knew better than let me to try to say all that, right? Because I would have killed it.
Yeah, and you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook.
And we will make a point to put those links in the content below. We very much appreciate you spending time with us. We look forward to checking out the ethical slut. I'll put it right at the top of my list. So I will give you my feedback. I'll listen to the audiobook. That'll make my life easier.
Totally. You will
I'm
not
sure
be
it will
disappointed.
confuse the crap out of my partner. Like, what are you listening to? I'm like, Allegra said I need to listen to this, so
it's about relationships.
So I will put that on my list. I will let you know how that goes, one way or another. We will put the links below, and if you like what you've heard today, please like us, share us, do all kinds of crazy stuff. But again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to further conversations.
Yay. Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.